brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Suds, Suds, Suds. It's time for more Suds.
It is definitely time for more Suds on this Suds episode where everything good in life is worth discussing. I am one of your hosts here at the table, good old boy Mike, and joining me today is good old boy Brian.
Hello.
And good old boy Chris.
How are you?
And the Shew.
How's it going?
Our Sud segments are all about beer, and definitely more beer. Today's show is a dual vertical tasting.
He's going vertical, so am I.
Yep, we're definitely going vertical today. We'll be enjoying Stone Brewing Wootstout and another vertical of Brooklyn Brewing Black Ops, for sure.
Got it.
That's your course heading. Now, just below, there's a knob surrounded by hash marks. I want you to turn that knob counterclockwise to 290.
290.
Well, for Wootstout, we'll actually be covering three different versions today, 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0 from Wootstout from Stone. And from Brooklyn Black Ops, well, it's going to be 2010, 2011, and 2012. Now, Shew is going to give us a general overview on approaching a vertical tasting and maybe what may emerge from an experience like this. Dare I ask, what is going to emerge from an experience like this?
Well, I'll reserve my comments about some of these tastings later, but although you don't want the 11. You don't want the 11.
I was thinking what's going to emerge from the three of you, not from the tasting itself.
Well, there you go. Vertical tasting is a very common with products that are usually available in vintage like wine or whiskey. Doing so with beer is a bit less common, but we've got some pretty big beers at the table, so it's produced to be consumed rather than quickly. Some of the bigger beers, though, actually they'll age a little bit better. So the things that we have from 2010, it's probably pretty unusual for you guys to think about a beer being 5 or 6 years old that we've been holding back and saving. But we do it for these kind of things.
Ew, that sounds like it's old.
I know, exactly. So certain types of beer actually do get better with age, or simply bottle condition. Though again, beer's kind of a living organism, so it'll continue to change as it goes along, and you might get a little additional fermentation once it's in the bottle. Some types of beer do change over time. Lambics, barley wines, high alcohol type beers. They're actually going to age gracefully. Stouts is another one of those beers. When you get a big stout, it's going to age gracefully.
Well spoken, good sir.
Thanks, man. There are two main differences in beers with each of these verticals. The Wootstout's an imperial stout. The Brooklyn Black Ops also is, but the Black Ops is actually aged in a bourbon barrel for 4 months, so it's going to take on some of the character of the barrel. Wootstout is partially aged in bourbon barrels for 2.5 months, so there's month and a half difference in the time that's against that wood, so it's going to take on different kind of characteristics. So we'll be revisiting the basic question of, is a barrel complementing the beer or overwhelming it with these big booze overtones? Anytime you put these potent combinations of ingredients in the context of time, something interesting generally will happen. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. And I think when you see some of our notes, you might be surprised at how some of these age versus some of the others. So I'm looking forward to kind of talking about that in a little bit.
Well, I really appreciate telling people a little bit about what we're doing here in a vertical tasting. So this is very cool. It takes a little bit of patience and time to kind of pull something off like this. And not a lot of beers are available, in a vintage like this as well. So, I think that's always something to kind of keep in mind. Well, Brian gets the honors of going over our Suds rating today. Now, it's our fashion to for a first timer to definitely get harassed. I think we're going to get that part down. So listen, Brian, you're going to need to channel a military tone while reading this and repeating everything twice, just like everybody else does in military movies.
Head. I've got him dead ahead. Good tone. I got good tone. I got tone. Fire it!
Now, I have no idea why they always say everything twice, but they go banking left, and Roger, but for some reason we have to say everything twice in the military. Well, this is a dual vertical. So I'd like for you to definitely channel some of these aspects. What you never notice that in the movie that happens. You guys never get that.
Oh, I've noticed that.
Absolutely.
No, it's actually your wife or your girlfriend that always says things twice, and then you don't remember it. That's the difference. So,
Did you just actually ignore me twice, right?
yeah, that's yeah. There you go. All right, Brian, take it away.
Well, listen up, Sergeant. We will be tasting and discussing these beers. I said these beers and rating them with the Suds, S-U-D-S ratings, plus our own signature belching sounds. Here, Private, are some of those ratings now. Number 1, that sucks. Private, that sucks. Give me 20 and anything but a bud. Number 2, excuse me, Private Chris, was that a belch?
No.
Good. Number 3, Mike. Was that a relief?
I'm
A relief.
I'm actually kind of puckering up over here.
Number 4, a body. I said, hey body, as in nobody should really make that sound, sir. And number 5, listen to that hanged. Give me another.
I agree. Amazing. I have to say, for a first timer, it's pretty good, you know?
First timer, short timer.
Yeah, I agree. Sounds like we need to
Short
celebrate
timer.
with a beer. Well, Brian, in a non-military tone, is actually going to give us an overview of the Wootstout that we're going to be talking about today from Stone.
All right, well, let's go over this. So, the Wootstout, the infamous Wootstout, is a collaboration between a brewing professional, a passionate home brewer, and an all-around beer geek. In the case of Stone Brewing CEO and co-founder Greg Cook, actor, craft beer lover, and geek idol Will
What did he ever act in?
Oh, that's...
What?
Yikes.
What did he ever act in?
Star Trek, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Star Trek.
Like 8 seasons.
Yeah.
Heyo!
Dude. Like, that's the only thing he's ever been in.
What
but-
did he ever act in?
So,
Epic fail.
yeah. Anyways, and the craft beer loving Fark.com creator Drew Curtis. Well, this is an extremely imaginative, dark, hoppy, and let me tell you, a massive beer. This is a story of how these 3 men, the 3 wise men, dare say we say geeks, met requires a complex explanation and jump back in time. So, back in 2004, Wheaton called to ask, would it be okay for him to put the Arrogant Bastard ale logo on his blog's website? And who wouldn't? I mean, come on. And Cook just so happened to answer the phone.
Hello, this is Greg.
It's just fate. Since Wheaton was so enthusiastic about the beer,
I love your beer.
I love you. Cook granted him approval, and all the while thinking, hey, this guy's name sounds familiar. And I was not stalking you. A year later, as crazy random happenstance would have it, Wheaton signed up for the Stone email newsletter, and it just so happened to be the 10,000th email newsletter subscriber, which is pretty random and awesome.
I think Chris is the first subscriber.
Well, he probably
Stone.
is, but he's not the
I would
10,000th.
Totally, yeah.
He's
Yeah, you don't see my beer being produced by Stone.
Stoneosaurus, Freakosaurus, Stone Man over here.
So, astonished that the Will Wheaton was the luckiest subscriber, Cook reached out to him, say, hey, what's up? And thank you. And that really started to lay the foundation, which bloomed into a great friendship on mutual appreciation of craft beer that is super delicious. So, as Will's enthusiasm about the beer grew throughout the years, he took up the noble art of homebrewing, which most of us have, I think, at this point.
Oh, crap, it boiled over.
That's a bummer. A lot of cleanup. So, when he was doing this, he also blogged about his accomplishments. And then eventually...
Look, it does not suck.
Oh, no, it doesn't. Okay. Eventually, in 2012, Cook and Wheaton discussed the idea of brewing together, right? And then in early 2013, the clouds parted, and the sun beamed down, and then unicorns were dancing on the rainbows, and finally, they found time in their busy schedules, what? To meet. Oh, for a session, but where? In a stone brew house.
I'm so captivated.
You know, though,
Holy Grail!
it could have been at the San Diego airport. I mean, that is one of the best airports in the world because
That's
of the
not
fact
as,
that
no, that's
there's-
not as, no. It's
Dude,
not the same.
Dude, they
the
sell
airport's
stone
awesome.
beer.
There's a stone restaurant there.
they
We get the
sell
duck,
stone
the
beer.
duck tacos and everything
Straight
else.
up on tap at the San Diego airport.
That's not the same as a brew house, is it? So that'd be like a jive turkey talk, you know what I'm saying?
What happened next, Brian?
Oh, well, okay. Oh, sorry. So, and back to the fantasy story. Next on the agenda was deciding who to include in their collaborative effort.
Bring out your dead.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So Wheaton suggested Curtis, and well, they have been friends for more than 10 years. And additionally, Cook had met the Fark.com innovator, so a few times at an annual.
I'm sorry, what? What was that?
Well,
It's a family beer show. Fark.
Fark.com?
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Let me tell you something. If you don't know, you don't deserve to know.
I'm going to remind you want to leave the 11 alone.
I am not. Well, okay. So they met in Long Beach, California.
I think
right?
since you finished it, we are leaving it alone.
Officially, I guess I'll smell it, but
Just say, thanks for taking one for the team, Shew.
Yeah.
thanks
you for taking all the
taking
beer, Shew.
one. Shew.
We'll talk about what he's polishing off here in a minute. So
All right, so the trio eventually convened at a Stone Spring facility, which is probably super awesome to visit, and crafted what is now known as the Drew Curtis, Will Wheaton, Greg Cook, Stone Farking, Wheaton, Wootstout.
longest beer name in history.
Pretty
all
much.
436 characters.
Oh goodness!
See, I mean, is that like, how do we fact check that?
We
do
don't.
What, the
Do we?
436?
Yeah, I'm just making it up.
I'm
Pretty
just
much
wondering
as
how you knew how
anything
many
else.
I guess you just count it. Just count it.
You do the spell
Just-
check, and then you do the
No, manual,
the
count it.
character
It's all,
count.
it's all good, Rodeo.
Brian, tell us what's in
it's
this
good.
beer.
All right, brother. So, what's in this beer? In addition to the traditional ingredients, which is the water, hops, the malted barley, of course, and our favorite makes everything so good, the yeast. Well, let me tell you about this long name of the beer again. The Drew Curtis, Will Wheaton, Greg Cook, Stone Farking, Wheaton, Wootstout was brewed. Oh.
Said that with flair.
I tried to. Was brewed with wheat, rye, and pecans. That's pretty
dude.
awesome.
Pecans and beer.
Dude.
Yeah. And this is all based on all the collaborators' preferences and unique abilities.
You know they actually sell a clone recipe at Northern Brewer for the original Woot Stout.
No.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. 21 pounds of grain.
So a
total.
clone of
5 gallon
what
batch.
we are drinking now.
Yes.
I see.
That is how reputable this beer is.
Buddy. Well, let me tell you about this. Where do these ingredients come from? So, Curtis's rye and pecans, after all, he is a Kentucky Southerner, right? The wheat comes from Wheaton's, and I mean, come on, his name is Wheaton. And Cook's hops, he's a confessed, hop that have you had his brews? I mean, come on. So, after fermenting, a portion of the Imperial Stout was stored in bourbon whiskey barrels for 2.5 months, and then it was blended with the rest of the beer, added the complexity. So, the resulting beer is bursting with a plethora of smells and flavor, including cocoa, coffee, licorice. Oh, God, don't stop me now. We're talking about oak, nuts, vanilla, and, of course, bourbon. So, what may actually be the highest alcohol beer ever brewed at Stone, it clocks at a 13% ABV and a 65 IBU, so you can get some bitterness going on. The beer is ready to enjoy now, but you may properly sell for several months, or may I dare you, years. Over time, it will develop deeper, rounder, coffee, nut, and bourbon flavors that the hop aromas and bitterness subside. So,
Somebody snorted, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So as a kind of a recap here, we're talking about the longest beer name probably in the beer history. The name of this beer is Drew Curtis Will Wheaton Greg Cook Stone Farking Wheaton Wootstout. Oh yeah, with a stout of a 13% big boy ABV and a bitter 65 IBUs, and this is not an IPA. Son. So, the hops bill is an English target, and let me tell you, this is distributed in only 36 states, and I'm told from a very secret source that is not Nebraska.
Now, reading in the voice of Mitch Steele, I'm going to have the Shew read some tasting notes that Mitch wrote. Can you channel Mitch?
I don't know. Let's see. Some cocoa. Coffee and fruit.
It's from California, so you got
mid palate. The bourbon barrel aged portion of the beer is apparent. So oak, vanilla, nut, bourbon flavors transition to a slight alcohol heat and hoppy bitter finish. As the beer warms, a nuttiness almost reminiscent of almonds starts coming through, but we use pecans.
Huh. I wonder how many of us use the word almonds in these tasting notes. That'll be interesting.
My mother-in-law would say almonds, like she says salmon. So I tried not to do that this evening.
Almond and salmon.
Well, right. I've learned some very interesting things through this. First off, have Brian record anything before we drink all the beer.
Perhaps.
I do like the whole flair
he's
thing,
probably
though.
He's probably the first newbie that we've had on the show, and that
was so natural.
Well, is not microphone shy and is a natural born voice actor.
He can wear the flair.
Please stop. That is so not cool what you're doing right now. I am so glad this is a radio show.
Well, it's a good thing we don't have the GoPro going, right? Yeah. Dan Patrick does not know what he's doing.
Yeah, that's just not right, man. This is a family beer show. So, well, listen, I'm glad we've gone through a bit of some background on the Stone beers. We're going to be enjoying the Wootstout. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Sips, Suds, and Smokes. This is Good Boy Mike, and we have a tasting today of a dual vertical.
He's going vertical, so am I.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, and we got a lot of double talk going on.
Dead ahead. I've got him dead ahead. Good tone. I got good tone.
Good tone.
I got tone.
Taste beer. All right, so we're going to get right into checking out the Wootstout from Stone. Now, we're going to be taking these beers one at a time, and we're actually going to rate things today in pairs. So our pairs are going to be Mike and Brian are going to rate in a pair, and Shew and Chris are going to be the other pair. And we're going to ping-pong back and forth as we're going through this. Listen, we're going to start... Up first are Chris and Shew taking on the Wootstout 3.0. So, Chris, what do you think about this, man? As he's taking one last swig.
What was the question?
Yeah, I agree. Bueller.
Well, I definitely tasted some plum. It was sweeter than I was expecting it to be. But that being said, it's definitely not unpleasant. It's definitely a solid stout. It's super thick, full-bodied beer. Aroma, I got to be honest. I mean, there's really not a whole lot of aroma there, and from what was described by Mitch Steele, aka Brian over there, I didn't taste the hop aroma or the hop flavor that they say they would, but it didn't really have an alcohol taste either. So for being 13%, it was a very, very smooth beer, and I was very pleasantly surprised with it.
What's your Suds rating?
I would definitely say a 4.
A 4. How about that? The body should really not make that sound. Shew, what do you think about the Wootstout 3.0?
I liked it. I would go buy another bottle. I got a little bit of a nutty aroma, kind of what I perceived. And I think the like when you drink it, it's like a silky feel in the mouth. It's always pleasant. I love that in a stout. I think it's a good quality. I always taste like a Three Musketeers bar nougat, like the chocolate inside of a Three Musketeers. That's the most pronounced flavor I got in it. It just didn't linger very much, though. So I actually thought it was a pretty good beer. But did you just finish the rest of that, dude?
He did.
Oh, I was going to revisit it, but
there you go.
Let me revisit that. See if
I poured it just for you.
Besides the Three Musketeers,
dude, I'm not in on this. So, oh, you're not either. So why are you drinking?
That's the 2.0.
Yeah,
sport.
So
you're 3.0.
I'll reserve my my feelings about that one, but I liked it. I would actually, if this was still readily available, I would actually go buy another bottle and put it in the fridge and try it again a year from now, or buy 2 bottles and try one next year and a year after that.
So your Suds rating on 3.0?
I give it a 4.
A 4 as well. A body should really not make that sound. Well, we're out of the shoot here, and up next are shoot. Yeah, yeah, shoot. Yeah. Up next, Brian and I are going to talk about Wootstout 2.0. I'm going to go first. So I have some very quick tasting notes on this particular one. Of the 3, this one had a lot more booze to it. And I think it's just a common way that I think about barrel-aged beers is the beer complementing the barrel, or is the barrel complementing the beer, or is one kind of overwhelming the other. And in this case, this was a booze bomb. And it just really kind of overtook the whole palate. I was just really tasting, mostly just the booze in this. I did not particularly like this beer a whole lot. My Suds rating for Wootstout 2.0 is a 2. Was that a belch? Brian, what did you think about this beer, man?
So, I guess, and the great thing about beer is different people have different taste buds. So, okay, so compared to the 3.0, there was less fruit in the aroma when just smelling, but it's still noticeable. So, almost like a plum. It's kind of interesting. But on the booze part of it, to me, it was much calmer. It was not as boozy or active to it. So there was definitely more bourbon taste, but it just wasn't more biting to it. So and I definitely taste some chocolate and coffee, and that was coming out more so than the 3.0 towards the end of it. And there's a goodness of sweetness, but I mean, I thought it was pretty good. My rating here was actually 5. So.
A 5? How about that?
Yeah.
Listen to that hang time. Give me another. Wow.
Give me another.
So, you finished all your sample, didn't you, earlier?
Yes, sir.
Sample to you is like half the bottle. Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, in fact, that's interesting because actually that's one of the few bottles that is completely empty is the 2.0 Wootstout.
Because it is the best beer in this entire tasting.
See, sister over here needed to rate 2.0 because he's going to be talking about this like the 30 minutes it takes to drive back to my house.
Yeah.
It's going to be Wootstout revisited for like 30 minutes.
Dude, it is the beer. Well, that's the only beer that I have not had twice. Sorry. That I have
in your life?
Beer. No, I've had that. I've had it. That's the only
in your life.
I've had that one twice. The Wootstout 1.0 is the only one I haven't had twice, and I actually scored that lower than the 2.0.
See, that's what's cool about beer in today's day and age. I mean, 10 years ago, it was a fairly narrow band of what's available. Today, it's like you may not like beer today, but try again tomorrow because somebody's going to make something you like.
Yes.
I mean, this to me, the 2.0. It was my lowest rated of all 6 beers we tried tonight.
And
but
to me-
I would buy a bottle of it.
And to me, it was definitely the highest rated of all 6 beers.
Yep.
It all comes down to palate.
Chris, did you like that beer?
No, not at all.
Chris.
Not
Hey, Chris.
I actually wanted to try and sneak away with it so I could flush it down the toilet, but
Well, let's move right along to the last beer in this vertical, which is the Wootstout 1.0. Chris and Shew are going to cover this. Chris, what did you think about 1.0? Chris,
all right. Well, me personally, you were talking earlier about the I believe it was the 3.0. You had the highest alcohol burn.
that was 2.0.
Oh, 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me.
Yes, your favorite child.
Yeah. To me, it was the 1.0. But with that being said, it actually was the hoppiest of the 3, in my opinion. It definitely had a fruity taste to it. Some kind of, resemblance of brown sugar. And it was very thick and full-bodied. And I really, really enjoyed that.
Shew, and what's your Suds rating for the 1.0?
I give that a 4. It wasn't...
A body should really not make that sound.
Yeah,
So-
it wasn't as high as the 2.0 for me. I gave the 2.0 a solid 5, but it was still a very solid beer.
Shew, what do you think about 1.0?
1.0 was my favorite of the 3. I got a black licorice aroma still, and I was because I didn't read the about what the description was from Greg earlier, and when I came back and after I read what I wrote about my notes about this, I'm thinking, wow, it's pretty spot on for what you'd expect for that. But I get a black licorice kind of aroma, and when I was smelling dark chocolate flavors, a mild cherry notes in this. Raisins and molasses. I think age has been very kind to this beer, to be honest with you. I think it's probably better than it would have been when it came out, in my personal opinion. It had a silky mouthfeel, and it kind of lingers. It's like I actually want to have another drink after I have a sip of it, and I'm thankful that it's still sitting next to me because you guys don't want any more of this.
No,
You want to leave it alone like you
it.
leave the 2011 Black Ops alone, too.
Mm-hmm. So your Suds rating is going to be
5.
A 5 for this.
Yeah. I may go out and try to find one of these on the web. I thought it was pretty good.
Cool. Well, quite interesting.
The internets.
The interwebs.
The interwebs.
The interwebs.
Love that. Well, so we're going to spend a minute and just kind of talk about the vertical in general. So we're going to start right here first with Brian. What do you think about kind of the vertical in general? Was it what you thought, tasting kind of all 3? I don't know. What do you think in general?
So I thought as the years went on, the bourbon and the booziness kind of calmed down. It wasn't so active in your mouth. It wasn't so biting. It was still there, definitely, but it brought out other flavors as it got older. The plum, and even the oldest one, the 1.0, was the first one I smelled the vanilla in, which was awesome. So,
well, cool. So, what was your favorite of the vertical itself?
and that's kind of a trick question because I thought like the 2.0.
It's so tricky.
Well, it is.
What's your favorite color blue?
That's right.
Yeah.
Is it teak-cool or
Which
is
of
it,
your children
blue?
do you prefer?
So, the first one.
first one.
Which one of your wives do you prefer?
Well, since I only have one, it is one. That's an easy question, actually.
Same.
Same.
The one that
it's
did not-
different, but we're same. Okay, so the first one that's the first time the vanilla really came out in the aroma, and the taste was super well balanced. But the number 2 had a little bit more of the chocolate and the oak, and
That's my boy.
what? Yeah. So, but I'm saying they're very different. It's hard to say what's best, but I would definitely say the 1 or the 2 over the 3. The age does wonder. It's just different.
Yeah, you definitely have to let the 2013 age for 1 or 2 years before actually being able to give it a fair comparison to the 1.0 or the 2.0.
That's right, Christopher Ray.
Shew, what do you think about the vertical?
It was interesting. I liked the oldest the best. I gave it a 5. The 1.0. The newer one I was partial to for the second one, and then the 2.0. It was. I agree with you. It was like there was like alcohol in it, which was a little off-putting to me personally. So I liked it. I would buy another one of the Wootstout ones. Probably wouldn't buy the other two.
Interesting.
Total bummer.
What's more for you?
So, Chris, we are heard self-confess that you love the 2.0 as you gushed about it for eons of time. But what did you think about the vertical in general? Did you think that it was getting better or different, over time?
It was definitely, I can definitely say it was different. Whether it was better or worse, I can't say because, as I said, I did prefer the 2.0 versus the 1.0 or the 3.0, so I can't say that it got better with age, because if that were the case, then the 1.0 would be better than the 2.0. But as a vertical, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I could not be happier with the results. I mean, honestly, I would not, if there was a rating scale between 4 and 5, say 4.5.
And there's not. We burn people alive at the stake when they do that.
Then
it's a B plus, not a B.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's not a winner here.
It would definitely be a 4+ on every single one of these beers, if not a 5.0.
Participation trophy.
So I had a few thoughts to offer up here. So when we first talked about doing this vertical, my initial reaction was, wow, could we review anything but Wootstout? Because I was not a fan when it first came out.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, well, it's just sometimes, there's just something that you don't particularly like or you're favored. And I think part of it was a timing mechanism when this came out. There was just like this flood of barrel aged bourbon stout, and it was like instead of having like 2 or 3, there were like 40 on the market. And I think when I first tried this, I was like, this is a gimmicky, this is a Me Too beer. I'm not really quite sure, why doesn't Stone stick with what they do really well? Why did they have to go down this path of saying, well, look what we can do, just like everybody else, And so, so when we kind of walked into this vertical, I had a bit of that reservation kind of walking into it going, I'm just going to kind of grin and bear it through, this. I was really surprised how well some of these had come around. And I think really kind of altered at least my perspective. Probably the one beer that I really enjoyed the most, and I didn't rate it, was 1.0. Some of my tasting notes, really complex, dark fruit, a lot more cocoa. It was definitely my favorite of the round. If I had to finish a bottle here at the table, that would be the one that I would probably.
I don't think you have to worry about that.
Nope. I was going to finish the 1.0 after the 2011 Black Ops.
So let me ask you this real quick. Is this the first chance you've had to try any of the Wootstout series?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. I had it when it first came out.
The Wootstout 1.0?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and, I was just, like I said, I just had this kind of initial reaction with, with it, and I just, I probably tasted the other ones. I can't really recall them, with great recollection. Right. It was just like, oh, this is another bourbon barrel-aged stout, I guess what I thought was interesting is I don't think that the complexity in 1.0 and that flavor profile was really a component of time. I really think that was just a super solid beer to begin with that got better. It did get better with time, but it is not better because of time.
Age has been kind to it.
It has been,
but it would have been good out of the gate. I agree with you on that. I think it's interesting that. Because being a home brewer, like sometimes some of the stuff that comes out of the the kettle originally when we first get it going, I'm not real happy with it.
Well,
and I'll put
absolutely.
it away and I'll forget about it for half a year or a year and come back to it later. And it's like all of a sudden, it's something magical happens.
I think the one question I would probably throw back would be, I think that there are different barrels that are involved with all three of these. It would be very difficult to sell me to say these are all the same barrel or barrel type or even the same type of bourbon that they're working with. There's something very unique and different with all three of these on the booze side. And so I think it depends on what they were aiming for. I don't think that they were aiming for, let's all make the same beer year over year and let's compare them, which is a true vertical. I think what they were really aiming for is they were trying to make a good beer each year with a very similar style.
Agreed.
And I think if that was the target they were aiming for, I think that they came closer to hitting that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I think they did too. And I mean, I think that's similar to what a vineyard will do because weather is so, if we're talking about wine, weather is so dependent on what your grapes are going to be. And you can only make it out of what you end up with. So what might be good one year, the next year is not quite as good, even though it was the same plant.
Yeah, and me personally, as it was said earlier in the broadcast, I'm a huge Stone fan, but these all three of these beers are solid beers. In my opinion, the 2.0 is the best, but I would definitely buy all three of these again.
Cool. Well, I think we need something.
I feel the need for speed.
Absolutely. We need a little bit more speed here. Well, up next is going to be some background on the Brooklyn Black Ops, and I've asked Chris to give us this background.
All right, so what everyone at this table and all the listeners need to understand is the fact that Brooklyn Black Ops does not exist. However, if it did exist, it would be a strong stout concocted by the Brooklyn Brewing team under cover of secrecy and hidden from everyone else at the brewery. The myth is that this supposed Black Ops was then aged for 4 months in bourbon barrels, bottled flat, and re-fermented with champagne yeast. Presumably, such a beer would raise a rich, fluffy, dark brown head, and it would combine chocolate and coffee flavors with a rich underpinning of vanilla and bourbon notes. A beer like that would be mighty nice, but it would be hard to make more than a few cases. It could never be sold, released to the public.
How could you sell a beer that doesn't exist?
Well, that's the point of this conversation. It doesn't exist.
What beer?
Wink, wink. They say that the brewmaster revealed the beer to a few other people at the brewery only after it had been barreled. The rumor going around is that the brewery plans to drink the beer themselves over the holidays and give some to their family and friends. Well, that's what they say. But frankly, there's no evidence for any of this. This beer is obviously a figment of people's fervent imaginations. People tend to get loopy around the holidays. Everyone, go home now.
Brian.
Don't be jealous.
There's nothing here to see.
Gelling like a felon.
So, the supposed alcohol by volume of this non-existent beer is supposed to be 10.5%. Okay?
Yeah.
And the Brooklyn Brewery distributes to 25 states and 20 countries.
Wow. Huge distribution.
That is a
footprint.
very huge distribution.
That's a lot of places that the beer will not exist.
Not a secret.
Well, it goes out. I think we were talking about the military earlier. I think it actually goes out like, incognito. Like
I think the whole point of this whole thing is we all need to agree that this beer does not exist.
Understand your tax money is hard at work on a military plane.
This beer does
taking
not
this
exist.
beer to Europe and everywhere
Shew,
else.
this beer does not exist.
Oh, hey, whose phone is that? Oh, cool. Hey, welcome to Let's Chug a Beer. That's our rule, man. If that phone's ringing, you're drinking. Well, I really appreciate the overview on that, Chris, and some information on a beer that doesn't exist that we're consuming and rating today. So, really awesome. So, there were a couple things that I remember when Black Ops first came out. I happened to be in the New York City area quite a bit, when this beer first came out.
I think 2010 was the first year.
Yeah, it was. It literally was like you needed to know somebody before you'd even.
Wait a minute.
The beer would even exist.
You guys are talking about the beer that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it had a very small distribution, when it first came out. My favorite part about the marketing shtick was this beer was brewed in Sweden at a secret brewery, and they had like all of these pictures of stuff. It was just a brilliant piece of marketing, and I that was part of what I really loved about this beer was it was a Whole Foods story. It was. It was a product that had a good storyline that went behind it, and I really loved that.
Well, the story was they only make 1,000 cases.
Yeah,
right. I don't know if that's true or not, but the distributors and the liquor stores, that's the way they would sell. Like you get one bottle, man, that's it.
Yeah,
you gotta have to go back, make 3 trips to the same liquor store, and try to like wear something different, so you get at least get one more taste of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're going to take another quick break here. We're going to come right back. We're going to get right into tasting a beer that doesn't exist. So come right back. Hey, welcome back to Sips, Suds, and Smokes. Today's episode is a vertical tasting.
He's going vertical, so am I.
Oh, yeah.
Rocket Man, burning out his fuse out every home.
There's no lighters at the table, guys. So
we totally need them.
We are tasting 2 vertical tastings today. We're tasting the Stone's Wootstout, and the other vertical we're doing is from Brooklyn Brewing, the Black Ops, and we're going through the last one, the Brooklyn Black Ops, right now.
The one that doesn't exist.
Yeah, we're talking about a beer that doesn't exist. The first beer we're going to talk about that doesn't exist is the one from 2012, and Brian and I are going to discuss our tasting notes and rate this first. So my tasting notes on the 2012 Black Ops, I wrote down pure cola, sweet, and this is pretty carved up. I actually wrote down, and I don't think I've ever done this with a beer lately, which is this needs a straw. So it was so vastly different than the Wootstout. I was like, wow, are we actually tasting a stout beer? Because we have really changed a dramatic style effect. And we haven't gone from milk stout to Russian stout. We've gone to a whole new land of sweetness with the way that this 2012 was. I can't say that this set things up really well for me. My Suds rating for the 2012 was actually a 2.
Yeah,
was that a belch? Brian, what do you think about this?
So, and that's where the glorious thing about craft beer. Different people have different taste buds. So, the aroma, just smelling it, first of all, was coffee, and it was thin air. You know what? perceived as Imperial Stout. It was thin versus the thick. It wasn't overpowering. It had definitely a heavy fruit and plum smell to it, but it was, when I tasted it, it was very sweet, almost with cherries. I don't know if it was brewed with cherries, but that's what I tasted. The coffee complemented the chocolate, and there was definitely a heavy on the mouthfeel. But what I gave it overall was a 3, as if it was a good brew.
What a relief. Well, we're out of the gate with the first rating here.
Would you give it?
On 3. Yeah. Uno, dos, tres. On a beer that doesn't exist. So up next for the 2011 is going to be Chris and Shew. Chris, what do you think about the 2011 Black Ops?
The 2011,
Say it. Ray it. Come on.
No, wait. We're going to invent something new here, and it's going to be just for you. You are going to win the Reverend Mark Award, because Reverend Mark always talks like this. He didn't talk into the microphone, so
I have no idea who
You're right, because he won like Reverend Al Green.
You know what? I will accept the honor.
You know Mark.
It is truly
You just don't
an
know
honor.
you know Mark.
Yep.
Probably.
It doesn't suck.
I think it sucks. I think that sucks.
It sucks. It's so sucky.
All right, Chris, go for it.
All right. So my take on the 2011 non-existent Black Ops stout was it was definitely
stout.
Cola.
Yes, cola. It was definitely cola.
Yeah, Rain Man. Definitely cola.
No, 2011. To be totally honest, I felt like it was thinner than the other 2 years, but I did feel like it was it had less of that harsh alcohol taste than 2012 or 2010. It was more sweet, kind of more of like a brown sugar taste. Pretty pleasant. I enjoyed it. Had that roasty flavor that I very much enjoy. And I tasted, I could be wrong, but my palate personally tasted a little bit of vanilla, and I gave it a solid 4.
Wow, how about that? A body should really not make that sound. Shew your tasting notes on the 2011.
You ain't wrong. This is my favorite beer of the night. Just be upfront about that.
I'm sorry. You were licking the inside of the bottle.
I was like tipping upside down. You guys don't want this. I was taking one for the team. No, I got roasty aroma.
Totally.
Silky mouthfeel. It was roasty, nutty, raisin, fig. But I also got some chocolate in it. I didn't get any of that harsh coffeeness that I got out of the 2012. They're like coffee grounds almost. What I got out of the 12, right?
I can totally agree with you on the chocolate.
The 11 it was really, it had subtle finish. It was soft, and every time I took a sip, I just wanted to have another sip. It's like that's the bottle of beer we had the night that I wanted to go back and like continue to pour out of before you guys realized I was drinking it all. So I give it a solid 5. It was my favorite beer of the night. Yeah.
Are you talking about the beer that you continuously told us that we didn't want to drink any more of?
Exactly.
That's
reverse psychology.
That's called good lobbying. That's
right.
what that's called. Well, up with our last beer we're going to talk about and rate is the 2010 Black Ops, and Mike and Brian are going to cover that one. So my tasting notes on the 2010 Black Ops. I wrote down it was bitter. It had a bit more alcohol, and you could definitely taste some chocolate in this. Finally, there was some flavor profile that was coming around for this. Well, I think I'll save some of those comments for the whole vertical. My Suds rating for the Black Ops 2010 is going to be a 3. What a relief. Brian, what do you think about the 2010 Black Ops?
So, I'm not a professional, but if I divided into aroma and like tasting, smelling it, there was some sweetness, like a vanilla and a chocolate, like a Neapolitan, in terms of beer and not ice cream. So, but It was, in terms of the vertical, the most thick of the mouthfeel. There's a lot of oak, a lot of chocolate going on, a lot of plum, a lot of fruit. So it was definitely the heaviest of the mouthfeel of all of them. It was great.
What's your Suds rating then?
It was a 4.
4, how about that? A body should really not make that sound. Well, let's chat just a little bit about what we thought about this vertical once again. We'll head right back to Brian. What do you think about the vertical for the Black Ops in general?
I think that overall, as it aged, you got a more distinct flavor, multiple flavors, more complex, but all of them are pretty amazing. So, but like I said, I think like you got more fruit and a heavier mouthful when you smelled it.
Interesting. Shew, what do you think about this vertical from Black Ops?
I felt pretty good about it. I mean, I think what was interesting to me is the packaging, and I honestly think it had an effect on it. These are the Belgian corks in them versus a cap, and I think the age has not been as kind to these beers as it's been to the bottles that had a cap on them. I honestly got, I felt like the 2010 and somehow the 2011 was a survivor. It was whatever the infiltration was made it better. I think age improved that beer from what it would have been in 2011.
Yeah,
as opposed to the Wootstouts. I think the Wootstouts were better protected the way they were packaged. So I don't know.
Yeah. So that our listeners don't have the benefit of looking at these bottles, and they were corked, capped a little bit different. So the Brooklyn Black Ops used a champagne cork, and the Wootstout used a regular traditional steel cap and a crimping cap. So that's my Shew is saying that basically using a cork, you're concerned that air was basically introduced by using something that was a permeable.
I think
product.
so. Yep,
interesting.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, what do you think about the vertical here for Black Ops in general?
For Black Ops, I definitely feel like I have to agree with Shew. The lightest release was, in my opinion, the best, and I think I really think it had to do with the storage of the beers, whether they were on their sides. If they were on their sides, then those corks are more permeable. You're going to introduce different flavors, and the 2013, if you don't mind me, listing off, or sorry, not the 2013, but the 2012 rather. It had, in my opinion, the least amount of alcohol flavor, fusel alcohol. It definitely had a more sweeter taste and a more roasty flavor, and I definitely feel like it was the best of the three in the vertical. I think it, in my personal opinion, maybe if it were stored in a different way, it may have aged differently, but I definitely feel like if it were stored horizontally, then it definitely would not... It would not retain the quality that was expected.
Well, I had some my own thoughts, about the vertical in general. I think the first thing I would say is this beer is just not working. Across the board, I really felt like all of these were way too sweet. The 2010 was actually the best, but even then, I just was not a fan of, I think the style of beer. It was very interesting tasting this side by side with the Wootstout, which had like this very big, rich, deep, stout. I mean, very, what I would consider more traditional stout, where you feel like you're having to scrub the sides of your cheeks.
Absolutely.
You guys are all like, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Where this Black Ops was all kind of on the top of your palate.
It's harsh.
It was just kind of floating all over the top.
I kind of felt like it was pretty tame, honestly.
Yeah, it was. Actually, with the with the 2011, I wrote down something I never thought I would write down. Tasting a stout, which it had a little bit of a hit of citrus to it, just some little tart or citrus thing that was going off, on that. But I think that it was just that very consistent, cola-like quality, cutting across all of these thin, I think was the other common denominator. I was looking at all of these. I really respect what they do at Brooklyn with a lot of beers, and I'm sure that these are really great beers, and there's a lot of people that enjoy them. Tasting it alongside the Wootstout tonight definitely had some undue influence of me looking at this beer with, in a comparative light as opposed to it standing on its own. Honestly, the one thing I didn't write down is just give me a shot of Beam and with this to infuse some booze. There is barely any booze on these beers.
I noticed that same thing.
Yeah,
I did not write that down on any.
I don't think
of the
that I've
6
ever
beers.
said that about a bourbon barrel aged product, because usually I go the bourbon is just killing the beer. It's overwhelming the beer, but the bourbon is always there. Whatever whiskey or whatever they put this in, it's like barely there.
I totally
In fact, if
agree.
it wasn't on the label, I would go, is this really in a fortified barrel? Are you kidding me?
Now, the only one I got even a hint of sherry or any kind of thing that I would expect was the oldest one. And I think it was oxidation. I don't think it was the process of doing. I think it was, and I use oxidation, big word I'm probably not supposed to use on the show, but the air's not been.
Everybody's asleep at this point. You can use the big words.
So, I mean, to me, the 2010 and the 2012, age has not been kind to them.
No, it really has
It's
not.
not. The 2011, I thought age was actually made the beer better than it would have been.
And I've had this beer fresh, like at bottle release time as well.
It's definitely good then.
It is. It is fair. I have enjoyed it at some bottle releases. I do remember.
You're talking about the bottle release that does not exist, right?
That is correct. Yeah. I do remember the bottle release for the. I want to say the 20. What would that have to be? I guess the 2013 in Buffalo, and I was sitting with the Brooklyn Brewery ambassador. She was sitting with me at the bar. And we were enjoying a beer that doesn't exist. And I remember thinking, wow, this is kind of interesting on tap. Because I don't know if I'd had it on tap, before. But
I never have.
It did. My vague recollection is, for me to walk away and say, wow, that was a watery, coaly mess. I don't remember that. I don't remember that when it was first released. So I'm with Shew. I don't think the time has maybe done this beer any favor.
And
I think they should change the way they package. I think they should cap it, not cork it.
And if you recall what I personally said about the tasting of the 2011, which I don't really understand, versus the 2010, but I went back and retasted the 2011, and I just felt like that was really watered down compared to the 2010 and the 2012.
It was softer.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was in my opinion, more drinkable.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought all the Wootstouts
you
were
could definitely.
drinkable. I think the only drinkable, to me, the one that I would have in other glass is the 2011. So.
Well, so I had I kind of transitioned rather quickly, kind of talking about the two verticals, and I didn't give you guys a chance to chime in on the same subject. Which, I mean, when you think about just a very basic question, which is, do you think that time is really, changing the beer here for better or for worse? Because that's part of what the exercise here is saying. Do you think time is working well with these particular beers in general? Brian?
I think 2 to 3 years is kind of a sweet spot for it. Beyond that, it's not so much.
Huh. Interesting. Shew, what do you think about time with these beers?
I'd like to revisit the Wootstout when 4.0 comes out and do a vertical with all 4 of them.
Huh.
And kind of see how that goes. The Black Ops, I'm pretty convinced that I don't want any more of the older stuff.
Well, we have some good friends at Stone and pan their beer. It might happen. Chris, what do you think about time with all of these beers? Work?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't feel that Stone, the Wootstout was I don't feel that time was favorable to their beer, but I don't think that it was harsh to their beer either. I mean, I think it was considering the fact that it was not the continuous recipe that they did every year. They had a different recipe for every year that they did. I think they did a very good job of every recipe that they did. In my personal opinion, I feel that the 2.0 was the best that they did. And I'm sure, obviously, that Shew and Mike both disagree with me. But
how long is that ride again? A half hour.
Yeah.
You're about it the whole way home.
But yeah, no shit. But
No beep.
yeah, but no beep. But as far as the Black Ops is concerned, I think if it is, if it is able to be preserved in a vertical setting, and there's no chance of oxidation or cork being contributed to the flavor of the beer, I think it would be a very solid beer, because in my personal opinion, the latest version of the non-existent Black Ops beer was the best version of the beer.
The 2015?
The 2012.
Well, really great stuff all around, and a really great experience, to cover these verticals today. So let's wrap up our episode for today. Well, we really hope you enjoyed this episode. You can catch all of our episodes online as well on SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, PRX, and Spreaker, our native media host. iTunes and our own Android app are the easiest ways to enjoy the show on your phone. Just search for Sips, Suds, Smokes on iTunes or in the Google Play Store. We love your feedback, and you can reach us online anytime at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. Our daily tasting notes flow out on Twitter. Our handle on Twitter is @sipsudssmokes, and our Facebook page is always buzzing with lots of news. Listen, do us a favor and take the time to rate this episode. Definitely not Brian's performance. If you're listening to us online, that's a great big help to us, and it will help with Brian's therapy and voice acting. And we get to see your feedback as well. I definitely want to thank my co-host for being here and managing to get through the whole episode without spilling an entire beer. Thank you for joining us, good old boy. Thank you for joining us, good old boy, Brian.
Good old boy, good old boy.
Brian, thank you for joining us.
Oh, yeah.
This is time for that witty tagline.
Yeah, not that shit you were throwing out earlier.
What's that?
What's that?
What's that?
Good old boy Chris, thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
And the Shew, thanks for joining us.
Man, glad to be here and really enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. Well, listen, this is good old boy Mike asking you to join us once again and keep on sipping.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see y'all next time.